All right, we're about to start. All right, everyone, it's time to begin. It's time to begin. Welcome. It is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. Welcome to the 10:30 a.m. Urban and Economic Development Committee meeting. My name is Anthony Archie, counselor for District 2. Welcome to those of you here in the space and joining us online. For everyone, item number 3 and 4 have been pulled, but don't worry. It'll be next week. We'll move back. No, 3 and 4. Oh, sorry, no, you're right, 4 and 5.
Item 3 is still on.
Item 3 is still on. And everyone went.
Game about 7. Is 7 on? I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. So much hard work for number 7. Okay, item number 1, we're calling the meeting to order. Item number 2, Pat Conley, reappointment to the Municipal Employee Retirement Board. Term expires December 31st, 2028. Pat attended 33 of 38 meetings and hails from Council District 4. Welcome, Pat, to the table.
Thank you.
Will you share a little bit, for those of us who don't have the pleasure of knowing you as well, a little bit about who you are? Why would you love to continue serving on the board?
My name's Pat Conley. I'm Tulsa native. I went to TU and OU, Bishop Kelly, St. Mary's. I contend the best education the state could provide. Some people would debate that. Worked for the city for 37 years as a city planner and then budget division manager and grants administrator the last year. I retired 12 years ago and I've served on the trash board subsequently and the MERC board. I think this is my 3rd term for the MERC board. And I really enjoy it. It's a pleasure to help manage those funds.
Excellent. Anyone want to make any comments? Yes, Councilor Bangle?
Thank you for continuing to serve. Obviously, we don't know each other, so it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Not enough fishing?
Golf and
Okay,
I ride my bike a lot.
okay.
So
Obviously retirement is treating you well then.
yeah, my wife and I travel. I can only really play golf twice a week because
That's it?
well, no, it's just a lot. Well, if I play more than that, I don't give a hoot.
Well, you get to play more than I do, so.
Well, yeah, so
Glad
it's a
you're
real
enjoying
luxury
it.
to have time.
Great.
I really like to ride my bike on River Park. Speaking of River Parks, we need a new trail for some of the bikes going through, for all the bikes going through the gathering place. It's very dangerous. And also, you all need to regulate, because it's your responsibility, I've been told by River Parks Authority
That's the
personnel.
Tell us what you think.
The motorized
I just had to
motorized vehicles
build him up.
on River Parks trails, they go way too fast.
For the retirees.
It's a
of the city.
dangerous situation. I don't know if anybody's told you all that, but it's bad. I ride down there all the time, and it's getting dangerous.
It's getting dangerous. We'll talk with Jeff. We'll loop Jeff in. I appreciate this,
Yeah.
Pat.
Oh, I didn't wind you up.
Institutional knowledge.
I just thought of it.
You also do a great job serving on the Terror Board as well. So
Just keep them at the table a little bit longer.
we'll be voting on you on February 11th. So not the 4th. So don't come here on the 4th. Come here on the 11th. We'll be voting. You're more than happy to hear you speak at that vote if you want to continue to share. But thank you so much, Pat, for your time.
Thank you, and I'll always try to mention, thank you all for your service. I know it's a real, takes a lot of time, and it's thankless a lot of the time.
Oh, it's
You do a
fun.
good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat.
And
Thank
all
you,
of
sir.
Great pay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Item number
Good
3.
to see you again.
Ordinance approving, are we ready? I'm sorry. Ordinance approving the 4th, all right, so I practiced this about 10 times today. I thought maybe I should memorize it, but then it was too much. Okay, everyone, pay attention. Item number 3, ordinance approving the 4th Amendment to the Declaration of Trust of the Tulsa Metropolitan Utility Authority, accepting the beneficial interest in the Tulsa Municipal Utility Authority as provided in the Declaration of Trust of said public trust as amended by the amendment to the trust indenture, the second amendment to the declaration of the trust, the third amendment to the declaration of trust, and the fourth amendment to the declaration of trust with the emergency clause. Who was with us to talk about
The declaration.
the declaration of trust? Eric?
I guess it's me.
Director Lee is with us.
So, as you know, there's the Tulsa Metropolitan Utility Authority and the Tulsa Utility Board. Tulsa Utility Board was created by charter. Tulsa Metropolitan Utility Authority was created so that it could comply with Title 60 trusts in the state of Oklahoma. The mayor can designate somebody to serve on the Tulsa Utility Board. And the way that the ordinances are, it does not allow for the mayor to designate someone to serve on TMUA. So what happens a lot is, it's happened previously with Mayor Bynum, it's happened with this mayor, is that someone can come into a meeting and vote on a TUB agenda item, but not vote on TMUA. And so it makes it very difficult to sometimes make quorum if they can't serve both roles. And so Jeremy Ward, counsel for TMUA, drafted this amendment and had legal look at it as well. This will allow the mayor to designate someone to not only serve on TUB, but also TMUA, so that we can be more efficient with our meetings and meet quorum when we need to.
Counselor Dr. Wright?
Just to clarify, so one person serving two roles within those entities.
Yeah, so currently Mike Miller is the designee for the mayor to serve on TUB, but he can't serve on TMUA because the charter does, or the ordinances don't allow him to do that. So with this change, then he would be allowed to vote at TMUA as well.
Could we not just have a secondary designee from the mayor?
That's right.
So that it's not one person?
Well, the mayor can't designate anyone right now to serve on TMUA. And I think that's what the change is. Are you asking?
I'm asking, is there a reason it needs to be the same person? Can we have two designees, one on each side?
Well, the problem is we have that meeting on the same morning. And so now we take up two people's time to come and listen to because what happens is the TMUA meeting goes first. And we have that meeting, and then the TUB agenda is the exact same. And so we would then have two people sitting in the meeting as opposed to one.
The agendas are the exact.
I'm sorry, Counselor Gilbert and then Counselor Hall Harper.
So, to what Counselor Dr. Wright is saying, everyone that's on TMUA is on,
Tulsa Utility Board.
okay, so it's just, Jack.
Yeah, why are there two meetings, same agenda, doing the same thing?
So this happens as well with Tulsa Airport Authority and Tate. We have these overlapping charter authorities that overlap with our Title 60 trusts, and they have, essentially the same purview. So in the trust indenture, it says that the membership of TUB as provided in the charter is de facto, they're the members of TMUA, but it doesn't replicate the language that allows for the mayor to make a designee to the TMUA.
So how has this been handled in previous administrations? Does the mayor sit on that seat?
He or she can, so I was the mayor's designee.
Right.
To Mayor Bynum, and I voted on TUB items. I waited until the TMUA agenda was addressed. Precisely the same agenda was kind of addressed in summary at the end of the meeting, and I voted on that, which I think Mike does as well. It's a redundancy, and it's a little bit odd, but I think this will just add clarity that the mayor's designee can also vote substantively on TMUA agenda items.
But it's the same setup, same citizens that sit on
Yes.
TMUA serve on the same, move over to,
Yeah, we can get into the whole history of during the charter amendments
okay.
in 1989, why this, the TUB was kind of the historical, it was it was kept in place because it was seen as kind of the link between the city commission at the time, and now the city council.
So maybe we just do a charter amendment to
Yeah,
gain all
that's
this
what I'm
out.
hearing. Can we do that?
Yes.
Yes, okay, well,
You can.
Although you ask,
would you
you're,
say
you- the
duplicate
citizens have to
this?
understand what we're asking them.
Why would you keep
Duplicate.
yeah, this sounds like a
process?
charter,
Why would
well,
you
it's
do
charter amendment season, so we're all in luck here.
Wow.
Yep.
Well,
And we
that's
just need to make sure the
one of
voters
our
understand why
last
we're
items.
cleaning up the language.
Okay, I just wanted to
Add it to
make
the
sure
list.
that it's just not the mayor's designee
Band-Aid.
moving from one meeting to another, but it's the same group of appointees
Yeah,
going
it's just
from one to
including-
the other. Okay,
They're simultaneously sitting in two seats,
Yeah.
except for the designee can't be appointed to the TUD unless we make this change and/or update the charter.
Yeah. It makes no sense to be,
All the
to
above.
duplicate,
Maybe
and
update the
and
charter.
they hear the same agenda?
yeah.
It's a waste of
Yes.
time.
It's just like.
That's a total waste of time.
So, here's what I'll say, is that after so the
If they do
first
it separately.
agenda is Tulsa Metropolitan Utility Authority. And it usually can take about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then they just read the agenda right after that, so it's less than 5 minutes.
To take action.
Yes.
But just get rid of it.
Correct. Let's just structurally fix it.
Government at its best.
Counselor Hall Harper, did you
I think we're 30
have
years into
additional-
this
No,
new
that's what I
government.
was trying to figure out, why are we doing the same thing twice?
All right.
Because they weren't so sure, like, council, government was gonna work out when
But
they
we know
left the
now,
commission.
right?
Correct.
I mean, 1989 is when we moved to.
Yeah, we're good.
council. Okay.
I think we're good.
Proof of concept has been.
That's the year me and Taylor
Established.
Swift were born. Moving on.
All right. Anyone? All right, anyone else? Thank you, Director Lee. All right, item number 6.
We should all go around the table and say what we were doing in 1989.
Graduating from high school.
It's not for public.
All right, item number 6, City
Thank you for
Council
the internet.
initiation of amendments to the neighborhood infill overlay text and expansion of neighborhood infill overlay zoning map boundaries for portions of City Council District 1 and 3. This is brought to us by Councilor Hall Harper and Councilor Dutton. Susan Miller is with us
Good morning.
to break it down.
Good to speak. Susan Miller with the Planning Office. This is an item, as he mentioned, Councilor Hall Harper and Dutton sponsored, and we've talked a lot about bringing forward an extension of the neighborhood infill overlay. So just to give you a little refresher about what that is. The purpose of the overlay, and I'll talk about where it is too, is promoting alternative infill housing in established neighborhoods, allowing a variety of housing, but also keep making sure that it's compatible in scale and character, and promoting housing types that help accommodate households of all different sizes and income levels. So that's the purpose of the neighborhood infill overlay today. It exists, and this is the boundary that it currently exists in. It's really neighborhoods surrounding downtown. This is really, I put this together. The red neighborhoods are the neighborhoods that were taken out during the process. Sorry, this is the best map I could get at the last minute when I was putting this together. But the red ones are not included. And so the current neighborhood infill overlay was effective in 2021. And this is, for instance, this is a house. I wanted to see it. I think it's at 14th and Harvard. It's a duplex. So I think there's another door around the side. So that's just a good example of how you can have a duplex and it really look like a duplex, or it's
Still looks like a single.
yeah, it looks like a single-family house. There is just kind of head this off at the pass a little. There's a second, or we call it NIO2, a neighborhood infill overlay, a second one that's in Dawson, very crafted for Dawson, so that wouldn't change, that remains as it is. That is the square mile of Dawson. So that's really not part of this. So the idea is to expand the infill area, neighborhood infill overlay area significantly. And we drew the boundary, really looking at all the neighborhoods that we thought were appropriate, which is really a lot. We've had a lot of interest in North Tulsa, both in District 1 and District 3. And we've had, and I don't have those numbers, I don't know if we're still tracking them exactly to see the activity we've had in the existing neighborhood infill overlay. It's a little hard because it's just a permit. It's just, you don't have to go through any special process. So I'm not sure if we're still doing that or not, but I know we've had quite a bit of activity in the existing neighborhood infill overlay.
When you say interest, you mean from developers or residents?
I'd say both. Yeah, both. So we have the extended boundary, which I'll talk about in a second, but we also have really lessons learned from the text of the neighborhood info overlay. So, for instance, in the existing neighborhood info overlay surrounding downtown, you can only utilize those provisions to do different housing types and have reduced lot sizes for properties that are residentially zoned. You can't apply that to commercial or industrial or any office properties. In Dawson, we actually did allow that. We've had people in the neighborhood info overlay we're talking about here that have rezoned from commercial to residential to take advantage of the neighborhood. We don't want people to have to do that, because, you know, there's a lot of smaller commercial properties that are appropriate for housing as well. So that's one. Expand allowable building types on non-conforming lots. There's just some weird non-conforming provisions we found that kind of get in the way. Adjust lot and building regulations to be consistent with desired outcomes, which means just, we've adjusted, we've looked at the lot sizes, looked at if you're familiar with the T-Town Home Catalog, the pre-approved plan program, there were some recommendations about some further reductions in lot sizes, so some of those will be seen here. Also, for some reason, in the original NIO, we didn't include detached houses with the ability to have reduced lot sizes, so we think they should also be able to have those. And then also increasing the number of ADUs allowed on a lot in the NIO. This is another sort of recommendation from the T-Town Home Catalog. I think they even recommended up to 3 accessory dwelling units per lot. We've decided that we think collectively with the counselors that we could try 2 accessory dwelling units per lot in the neighborhood info overlay. You still have to meet all the standards for lot size and setbacks and all of that. So you can't just cram them in regardless. So there's still standards that would apply. So that's the general flavor of the text amendments that we would process concurrent with this. The boundary was super hard to see. It really goes, let's see what I can do to verbally describe this. All the way up to the northern part of the city limits. On the east, the west boundary is Osage Drive, so we do go into right up to the limit of the county at least. Kind of circles around, it goes as far south as it abuts the existing neighborhood infill overlay there. And then, of course, I-244 is the southern boundary. It goes all the way out to Memorial. I think that jogs over, I think that's Pine. It's up to Apache. That's Highway 75 there at the kind of the northern part. So that's generally the boundary, really tried to take in neighborhoods. You can tell, I mean, a lot of District 3 is not included, obviously, because you don't need the airport, or District 1, Mohawk Park, none of that's necessary. And then we broke it down, and I know this is still large scale, but broke it down into 4 parts of that. Oh, thank you. Of that big area. One thing I'll say too, within this boundary, back to the big one, there are 25,000 properties in the boundary, so that's a lot. And within 300 feet of the boundary, there's an additional 2,000. So, not that it applies there, but those are the notices we're going to need to send out. So that was our struggle at first. That's expensive. Plus, we're going to have to post signs. We get to sort of be creative in how we do that. The code allows us to, since it's council initiated. But we still need to, provide that type of notice. So we do have some small area plan implementation money, and this does help us achieve goals in our plans. So we're going to utilize that money for notification and all of that stuff. So happy to be able to use that money for something like this. I think our next steps, which I didn't put here, but I think our next steps, I know that we're working with Councilor Hall Harper and Dutton to find dates to start public meetings, probably starting in, I don't know about late February, but at least March. Really, in February, there's a lot of prepping to do even for the notice. We're thinking as we prepare for a planning commission meeting, maybe sending out a joint notice, hey, here are the however many meetings that you have an opportunity to go to, on one side of the sheet, on the other side, and then here's the planning commission public hearing on the others. So we can try to be efficient in our notice, take advantage of that since we're sending it out to so many people. So that is what I have.
Thank you. Councilor Bellis and then Councilor Decker Wright.
Hey, so I had, I know we've communicated a tiny bit about this, but I wanted to follow up more. I'm really excited that this is happening, because I know it's really critical to addressing housing and feasibility for people to, do this kind of housing. And I know this primarily is focused in, understandably in Districts 1 and 3, and you've been talking about District 2 as well. And I also know the history of why certain areas of District 4 didn't have this happen previously, but I know there's still a lot of room for the NIO to expand in District 4, and that District 4 has the second most vacant lots in the city after District 1. Could you explain a little bit more about kind of the phased approach or the capacity issue? Does it have to do with mailing?
No, I mean,
You wanna jump on board, is what you're saying?
Well, it's just it's just one of those we need more housing.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious, why a phased approach versus trying to just do more at once.
so I would say less the mailing, more the just interaction with people.
Yeah.
And trying to communicate to the amount of people that we have already 25,000 properties that we're going to need to find a way to communicate with. So that's my concern. Even going into this year, I know I've talked to some of you about some of our initiatives, and
You have a lot of initiatives.
the people ones are the ones that take time. We can find a way to get notices done and all of that, but we just need to make sure we're meeting enough and communicating enough with all the interested parties, the homeowners, the property owners, and all of that. So
Right.
that's our.
I wonder, this is a query maybe to you and to my council colleagues as we get into budget cycles of things. It's okay, we need to address our housing crisis. There's especially, I'm just naming, for instance, in District 4, or kind of an urban midtown core where it makes sense to add in a certain density wherever we can as appropriate, blah, 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 blah. But I understand there's those capacity issues, and of course there's the most opportunity when it comes to vacant lots in, for instance, District 1 by far. That said, so I get the phased issue, but it sounds like to me, right, this is a capacity issue. So what I'm also hearing is hey, we would do more at once. That would help us move faster on making things more feasible for housing to happen. But there's only so many of you to do some of, just realistically to do a lot of that liaising. Is this a staffing?
Well, I mean, it's
You wanna
it's
give
a
them more
big.
money?
Well, or I'm wondering, is there another city department that helps facilitate that? I'm just thinking through that community outreach part. I know trust me, we all know how challenging it is when there's a controversial zoning topic or people have concerns. That takes a lot of time.
And it's a bit of every time, as you all know, we go into any type of zoning issue, it's an unknown. You may have 10,000, 20,000 people that are interested and want to call and talk to people all day long, or you may have none.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere in between is,
Yeah.
so we just need to be able to provide that. It's just it's a
Yeah.
very much unknown.
Yeah.
I would say, I would even feel better just to make sure we're still able to keep up with all of that communication with people. For one, it's really helpful when, Councilor Harper and Dutton are taking the lead on scheduling the meetings, and,
Right.
then we'll lead the conversation and show up and we'll do all that. That helps, kind of figure out that, we will, take the initiative to talk to home builders and people in the industry about it. But, maybe it would be okay even just to stagger it a little, not really to have to wait until this is totally over to start a second phase, I just kind of get past the big people part and kind of see what that is for this area.
That makes
It's hard
sense.
to know. I don't know that one or two people, it's just such an unknown. We just want to make sure the people that we have geared up to answer calls and
Yeah.
talk to people, that it's gonna be, I don't even know if it is, but.
Yeah, you
could
never
be.
know until it's happening.
Yeah, we don't know until we're in the
Yeah.
middle of it.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I just am trying to keep tabs on, because again, it's how do we do some of this stuff as expediently as we can, because we know it's important and we know it makes a difference, while also acknowledging that, these things are time and staff, et cetera, just consuming. Okay.
So let me just throw something, so, like a tentative schedule that we put together for this. Thinking, this is maybe a little ambitious, but I'm still hopeful maybe. If we can get through some meetings, some public meetings, we could possibly even, when do I have it? Oh, no, this is fine, April, as long as we get through planning commission, so we could even initiate a second phase in April.
Okay,
Which
so that's
is-
not, that's
Which will
not,
be here before we know it.
yeah, that's
So
true,
that-
that's around the
That
corner.
gets us past
Okay.
the big public meeting part and
Okay.
a lot of the calls and a lot of the conversations and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
And the second phase theoretically would be, would just be the map, so it wouldn't be all the text amendments that we needed to talk about.
I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense. So it's not like that waylaid. Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Counselor Dr. Wright.
Thank you. So we have the downtown neighborhood infill overlay in 2021, followed by the Dawson in 2022, and now this. Thank you to you and Counselor Dutton for expanding what we know is needed. I guess my bigger question is, are we gonna continue to patchwork our way through this, or can we, maybe the residential habitability working group or somebody kind of do a more comprehensive look at like ADUs by right in all residential areas?
Good question,
I'm glad you
I
think
didn't
so.
even talk to you about this, but yeah, very good question.
No, I know some things.
So well, we're working on that, and so we have what we call residential zoning code working group or something, whatever we call us.
Okay.
So we have a small group of us that have really been digging in deep. So we have the NIO too, which takes things further than this other group we're working on. We're looking at citywide changes. We've been working on that in the background. We hope to kind of get it worked out, present it to Planning Commission, maybe ask Planning Commission to initiate those changes in March. Now, that's a little ambitious. Maybe this isn't, that is more so. And there's a lot to it.
Sure.
So, in the end of the day, some of it may not all get through. Everyone might not be comfortable with everything, but we're trying to really look as deep as we can to try to accommodate some of the housing needs and some of the desires of what we've heard from people when they develop property broader than just the neighborhood info overlay,
Right,
and
so,
including,
if this
Associated
process you're talking about goes to planning commission, it still comes to us.
Yes.
So even if they are not unanimous or whatever, we still get a chance
Yes.
to kind of have a different
Yes.
lens that we put on it. I think it's great that you all are taking initiative to extend now for the third time a plan that in other cities has existed for a very long time. I guess my bigger question to you all is, do we want to continue to do a patchwork approach, which is very incremental? And I think in HOAs with covenants, there's already, like, that's not up for discussion, right?
Right.
They're not gonna have infill. But in other parts of town, where it's largely RS3, there could, with a little, you could have a mother-in-law unit or a boomerang child unit or your she shed. or
that's part of our
Yeah.
other zoning code.
Yes.
Overlays aren't meant to cover the entirety of the city. They're meant to capture, a goal in certain parts if we.
Yeah, I guess I'm
You
just
know.
saying is overlay, a patchwork of overlays, the way
Right.
we're gonna continue to do this work.
Right, because this takes it even to another level than the proposed residential changes that we're
Right.
working on.
Right.
So this may not be a right fit for everywhere in the city, and it's kind of the purpose of it overlay. So I'm excited for you all, and I think as soon as we present it to Planning Commission and kind of get to that process, I want to start meeting with all of you about it as well. But I think some of you will be excited about it, hopefully all of you, but we're trying to do our part.
Is your recommendation then to go, for counselors to go neighborhood by neighborhood or district by district and do these bring these overlays forward right now? This is the best way to go about it.
If you have areas in your district that you think would be appropriate for the level of this overlay, then we should definitely talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably the start. I know Counselor Archie did, and Bella, so.
And we've been having conversations about Red Fork, and there are folks that are interested in developing, but, if you're a builder, to be profitable, you want that density. Also, I'm asking myself the question, how do we breathe new life into a historic part of town? How do we bring more resources there? And the rooftops, bring in the retail, sort of that chicken and the egg sort of deal. And then I think there's some parts of town, like well, it's okay. Some parts of town feel that pride. The west side of Tulsa has that west side pride. So maybe they would resist a blanket regulation, even though it might be great. But my intention is, after you all are finished with with this infill overlay, we take the lessons and go to work and see what the feedback would be. Maybe it's different. Maybe the details of it are different, but we definitely want to contribute to housing. But
So I think, you and Counselor Bellis, when we are ready to get started on that, maybe March, or whenever we start those conversations about the boundary, what we would like to do, that we did with District 1 and 3, is kind of put down a boundary showing where we think the neighborhoods could accommodate it, where we've heard interest from property owners in the neighborhood, and start from there. Definitely rather try to look more broadly than neighborhood by neighborhood. It's a lot of process involved in this, so the more broadly we can do it, but in a way that makes sense, right?
Okay.
So we'll start that conversation in a few months.
anyone else? I'm going to ask this very quickly because I know we're running short on time, or we want to continue on. What's the thought process about the infrastructure that will be needed to sort of accommodate the building that we hope will happen as a result of this development for the?
So the beauty of infill is that infrastructure already exists.
Right.
So, I mean, most of the time, not always, because we do find pockets of the city that are still on sewer.
Right.
And like, as I think it's District 9, maybe 61st and Glory, or I'm not sure that. I'm
You've
not
got
sure what district.
41st and Lewis
Oh.
to 51st and Lewis,
Okay, I mean,
both
there,
sides of the street.
yeah, places you would not
Way out in
expect.
South Tulsa.
Yep.
Yeah.
67th and Harvard.
So
there is a-
sometimes
yeah,
that
There
exists.
is
Yep.
some consideration there,
67th and Harvard.
but that would be on the developer.
Yeah, and I don't know that
No.
any
It's
of.
already developed.
Yeah, I don't know about all of these areas in this huge area we're looking at now, but where we've done the infill overlay so far, definitely infrastructure is there.
All right. Well, thank you, Susan.
May not be the best.
Yeah,
Thank you, Susan, for being with us.
thank you.
All right. Item number 7, ordinance amending the TRO Title 51 Building Code, Chapter 1, International Building Code, 2018 edition, adopted Section 101, amendments to the IBC 2018 edition by updating subsection 305.2.4 and deleting subsection 305.2.5 to align with state law, which allows licensed family care, child care homes with large family care homes to comply with the International Residential Code and operate without an automatic sprinkler. This carries the emergency clause. Councilor Bellis, this is
This has been a journey, y'all.
This has been a journey.
This has been a wild journey.
Tell us.
I'll just give a quick kind of
Tell us, Bill.
rundown. Oh, a quick rundown. It includes, there's intrigue and mystery. No, this, so much kudos to, Councilor Hall Harper has originally been working with and heavily advocating alongside home child care workers when it came to ensuring that they could be licensed and through the city, and has more than once also been like, okay, we did it. We've cleaned up all these policies. They're good to go and be in compliance with state and city policies and be licensed. And so over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we all thought something came through this table that was like, okay, we have cleared this up in our zoning code. They are good to go and operate. And then it was brought to our attention that through our fire code and residential building code, there was an issue that required them to put in commercial grade sprinkler systems into these oftentimes old small residential properties, and that even our city water lines wouldn't have enough pressure to do that. So there were several layers of, we would have to update water and sewer pipes for them to be able to do that. They would have to spend thousands of dollars installing these into their homes. And we initially, myself and councilors Hall Harper and Dr. Wright, were working with council staff, Marissa had just come in, with Marissa to try to find people who would do that. We were going to try to create a revolving loan fund or something to help these child care providers. These are usually small, small business owners providing childcare to 7 to 12 people out of their homes. Some of them live in those homes, some of them don't. Anyway, we were we will find out how much it costs to put in a sprinkler system, and then we will create some kind of revolving loan fund or something so that they can get this going and come into compliance. we reached out to so many companies to give us a quote. Almost no one would answer. We finally got one to answer, and they heard what we were asking for and then ghosted us and never responded again. And so finally, someone came through who was being appointed to a city committee who also serves on a state entity that's related to fire suppression expertise. And we all just kind of, I cornered him right after he left a meeting here over a year ago and was like, hey, no one will get back to us about how much it costs to install these commercial sprinkler systems into homes, and he goes, "That's because no one does that and no one wants to."
Yeah.
At which point, then for us as a city and our fire department too, we were between a rock and a hard place. The code says this, we want to be in compliance, but no one even does that. And this fire suppression expert did assure us there were other proxy safety things that can be done to keep those homes and properties just as safe when it comes to, fire, et cetera. And, there's not a track record of this being even an issue in these homes. At that point, though, we knew we had to change state policy. And so last legislative session, Representatives Schreiber and Stewart, who also is a firefighter, so that was great. Representative Schreiber's been focused on child care access as well. They brought a bill forward to make this adjustment, so it got changed on the state level, so that now we can change it on the city level. That's the whole journey. And then after this, we'll be able to have these child care workers get licensed. Right now, with so many child care centers closing because of the cut subsidies, et cetera, we need all of these operators to be open and successful in the neighborhoods they're in. So I will let legal Carolyn Guerra over here explain a little bit more about the actual nitty-gritty part of this. But as a last quick note, we're following International Builders Code, which is only actually followed by like 2 nations. The word international, that's my biggest takeaway from all of this, is really kind of made up there. Yeah. It's just the US and like Saudi Arabia. It's kind of wild. Anyway, take it away.
Sure, well,
Yeah.
I'm happy to explain a bit about, just the numbers are a little confusing, but it starts with the fact that you have the IRC, the Residential Code, and IBC, and already the IBC allowed for 5 or fewer, so a child care home with 5 or fewer could already comply with the residential code. So you kind of had lower requirements for 5 or fewer. Years ago, or kind of what the existing of our amendments to the IBC here locally by Tulsa, we had kind of done something different where we'd broken out, instead of splitting 5 or fewer and 6 and up, we split it along the definitions DHS uses, which makes sense. So DHS has 7 or fewer is kind of a smaller child care home, 8 to 12 is the large child care home. And so our ordinance said, the way we amended the IBC, because we adopt the IBC, because that's what the state does. In our amendments, we said 7 or fewer can follow the residential code, 8 to 12 can, but with a sprinkler. So that's our current ordinances. Now, when this HB 1847, which is what Councilor Ballas referred to on the state level, passed last session, went into effect November 1st. It said, it kind of preempted municipalities. Municipalities can't put any extra requirements beyond the IRC. And, in talking and looking at even just the legislative discussions, talking to Representative Schreiber, and ultimately getting kind of guidance from the state fire marshal, it was clear that the intent of this bill, the meaning of this bill, is we can't require either size to have sprinklers. So this ordinance is meant to get us just lined up with the state requirement. I think our opinion from legal is the state bill is already in effect. I mean, that went into effect November 1st. This is getting us, so we don't have something on the books that is confusing and technically violent, in not in compliance with state. So, and this is where the numbers are a little weird, but like I said, already the IBC says 5 and below, you're in residential code. So the way we're fixing ours is we're just taking care of 6 to 12. So now we're saying 6 to 12 also goes to IRC and clarifying no sprinklers. So that's kind of what this ordinance does, and that's why it's just 6 to 12, is because 5 and below is already taken care of. If you have any questions, let me know.
That sounds pretty simple. It sounds pretty simple to me. That's good. 5 and below are we're already taking care of the 6 and above.
Right. And I think in the backup materials, I wrote up, what did I call it, background, and it can be helpful to just, sometimes I have to like kind of reread it too, just to follow the numbers and the history of it a bit, but that's there for your guidance and if you need that, but I can answer questions as well, but this is, I also pulled a quote from the email we got from the State Fire Marshal's office, just really emphasizing this is what all the cities in Tulsa, or in Oklahoma have to do.
Anyone questions or
Do that.
tremendous?
Yeah, hopefully we will.
Tremendous.
I will flag to my colleagues as well that I think we're gonna see other things, now that this had kind of helped me learn so much about, right, building code and fire code and all these layers, and these things don't just affect these, like, home childcare businesses, they affect other parts of, things related to housing and so much else, and so I think there's a lot of opportunities, and I'm sure, and I think we've even heard recommendations related to other opportunities that other cities or states have taken to make adjustments to these codes, to just like support businesses, housing, et cetera. And so this is definitely a good crash course in the complexities of all of that, and I'm sure we'll see some of it come across our table again now that we know that this kind of code reform can be really critical in supporting safety, supporting housing, supporting businesses, et cetera. This has just been a really interesting area to deep dive into that's both complex, but I think we'll be back at our table again now that we've learned more about it.
And I'll add too, I think the legislature's considering adopting the, I can't remember, I think it may be the 2022, the new set of IRC and IBC. So to the extent this is interesting to you or different parts of it, that's on the docket for this session.
And that's gonna impact sprinklering of all manner of buildings,
Yes.
especially historic,
Yeah.
like the historic apartments and things.
Yeah, there's layers like that, and especially with the fire code part, it can have to do with stairwell access or so much else, or, how many stories of a building or conversion need to do what. I'm just naming, we all may end up hearing, when people go to do different types of development or otherwise issues they come across related to this code, or I know sometimes we hear about this, especially on the fire code end of things, and it's worth flagging or seeing when something needs to actually be a state level fix. This is just one of those moments of, oh wow, we found out this requirement is like 100% unfeasible, we're gonna have to change the state policy, and I just wish we'd known that sooner, and now that we've seen that happen, I think we just need to start to try to identify those collectively as early on as possible, so that we know and it needs to go to the state level.
Can we ask for like a legislative tracker on that bill so we can follow it? And then we probably should get with NAOP and HBA to kind of see
I'm
like
sure
how
there's
that
one of these
all
moments, yeah.
for the session.
I think the draft that the OUBCC approved is available, so you can see what the
I
OUBCC
know.
is taking to the state.
As it relates to housing, not to speak for the housing forward folks, but I think they were involved in the committee level at the OUPCC that we've learned a lot about, has a committee level, and they've become involved in that as it relates to housing in those IRC and IBC recommendations.
Yeah.
So they can probably give us an update too there on where that is.
Yeah.
Can we also find out if current projects on the docket are grandfathered in under the 2018 International Building Code, or if, right? Like I have a big project in my district.
That's true, like,
How-
if it's
housing
changes.
projects?
Many phases, do
Yeah,
the
like a
new
project's
phases
in the
come in
middle.
under the new international
Those are
code,
based
or
on-
they get grandfathered in?
Is that based on the permit?
I don't know, I'd like to know.
That's a good question.
I think I know the answer, but I'll look at it. Yeah.
Asking
All
for the
right.
public record,
Anyone
phoning
else?
for a friend.
Anyone else have comments? All right.
Got a lot of friends.
All right, thank you so much for joining us.
That are asking.
Thank you, everybody.
Wonderful work.
Thank you for
Councilor Hall
tackling
Harper
all
and
this.
Representative Tyler.
It was
Representative
really
Provenzano
frustrating.
and everyone else. All right, you guys ready? Item number 8, we are gonna be discussing, discussion with representatives from the Tulsa Regional Chamber and Visit Tulsa regarding the hotel guest tax, including the local economic impact of tourism investment, peer city comparisons, and opportunities created by potential future funding. Other than discussion, no action will be taken.
For their binder.
Oh, for your, because your paper.
There are packets.
No, only for you paper-driven folks.
Oh, yeah.
The
I
rest
like
of
this.
us will,
Just because I want to write on
you
it.
have to download it.
Renee McKinney is, well, this wasn't
Isn't
on
it
the
back
thing,
there?
was it? Maybe
Yeah.
we could
Yep.
just
Yes,
leave
the
it
back
like
there.
that. But,
No, that's okay. I just was wondering why some people got paper and others
Because we
didn't.
special.
yeah, that's right, that's right.
With a
Special
capital
and-
S.
No worries. Renee, do you want to take it away? All right.
Thank you. So good morning, counselors, and thank you for allowing me to be here on behalf of Tulsa Regional Tourism. So I thought what we do is kind of start with who we are. It's beneficial just to do this quick level set of who we are and what we do. So we are an accredited destination marketing organization. We're operated as one of 4 primary initiatives for the Tulsa Regional Chamber. Our mission is to tell Tulsa's story and bring people to the city we love for increased economic vitality throughout with tourism spending. So you can see Visit Tulsa, Tulsa CVB, which is Convention and Visitors Bureau, Tulsa Sports Commission, and Tulsa Film, Music, Arts, and Culture. So tourism by the numbers, I wanted to show here what our visitor totals are, and I will just say year over year, we've increased our numbers, so we've had phenomenal success in this space. We welcome 10 million visitors every year. Our total visitor spending is $1.43 billion. It equals $3.9 million spent per day by visitors. So while they're here, I always say it's other people's money, OPMs. But that is a reflection of that. The economic impact, 16,053 total jobs are supported by the visitor activity. And you can see the direct spending. Direct spending is when they're staying in a hotel, and that's direct spending. The indirect spending is as they go out into the community. And then, of course, you have the induced spending, and that's vendors that support the indirect spending. So that kind of gives you the whole life cycle of what that is. So 1 in every 16 jobs in Tulsa is reflective in this space. And feel free to stop me as you see any questions here. But it's a profound effect on our workforce over the same time period with these jobs and what we have. So where is the money spent? This is where the 3 main sectors are: food and beverage. So you can see the number here of $442 million. The retail, the recreation, and shows the sporting events and all of the different events that happen. Again, over the same time period, the spending is only spending by visitors. So none of this is our community. These are visitors that have left their money here in our community. And so here is the share of that total spending from the visitor impact. And I just want to point out, because you'll see all dates where it reflects in 23. These are done every other year. So you have 23 and 24. So the 25 numbers are not out yet, but these numbers are reflective based on that number above. So these are how tourism really and truly benefits Tulsans. So our hotel guest supports our Convention and Visitors Facility Fund, which is the BOK Center, the Arvest Convention Center, and I know you all just did a tour of that last week, and the Tulsa Performing Arts Center. So those are the Convention and Visitors Fund, which is Tulsa Regional Tourism, that's our team. And then the Economic Development Fund, which is the Tulsa Authority to Economic Development and Tulsa's Future. So we always like to say with the visitor is really the front door to economic development, because once you visit, then you might bring your business here, or you're gonna come back again and again with your convention or your friends and family. So that really gives you the journey map of what that is and where it impacts. So these are some event highlights that we've had, and it's important to note, like, just a little bit of a look back, but the Big Dam Party, we had this incredible asset with Zinc Lake, and we're able to introduce that really to the world with that event, and showing how we can utilize, you know, this incredible space that we have and this incredible asset, which will lead to more and more events. And then most recently, you can see what we're introducing with being the capital of Route 66. And very excited about this with Councilor Bingle kind of leading the charge for us, is being able to showcase our centennial and bringing the world, literally, to Tulsa as the capital of Route 66, and having, breaking all records with the Capitol Cruise and bringing our auto enthusiasts and other visitors to have the excuse to come see us in May. These are some of our big wins. World of Wrestling, you can see those dates in 25, what that brought to us. Big 12 Wrestling Championships. And we're excited, when you think about the Big 12 is now coast to coast. So the fact that we've been able to keep this in Tulsa and have it year over year is a really important thing for our community. And Synogens, just down the road, they have their international seminar. And so these are some of our big wins that happen right here in downtown. Oklahoma FFA State Convention Expo. This is a really important convention to have. Over 8,800 room nights, 11,000 attendees, 8.1 million in economic impact. And this moved to Tulsa from OKC in 2022 and is contracted through 26. The Arabian U.S. Nationals and Half Arabian Championship Show. This is a really incredible horse show that every community wants, and they're always fighting to get it, and we've been able to keep it here in Tulsa. And then the Tulsa Shootout Chili Bowl. I can't say enough about this event to fill our hotels in January and what that has brought, and I can tell you other cities are increasingly trying to get this out of Tulsa, and they remain committed to Tulsa for us. But this is a really great, they just celebrated their 40th running of the Chili Bowl.
Wow.
And it's such an incredible event. So Tulsa, how do we compare? And you can see how hotel guest tax revenues in dollars per hotel room. This is our hotel guest tax, which is currently at 5%. Our dollars per room, you can see the number there. And if you compare, these aren't really apples to apples, and I'll tell you why. I mean, many of these cities are, they have different percentages, they have different ways of doing it, so it really isn't one size fits all. But as you can see right down the road with Oklahoma City, their hotel gas tax brings in 36.7 million, and you can see the dollars per room. You can see Albuquerque. These are really comparable cities in where we compete with Wichita. They're at 10.2 million, and Memphis at 14.6 million. And that doesn't even compare when you look at Dallas and Kansas City, because those numbers are in the hundreds of millions there. But this gives you that inventory from CoStar and the tax revenue figures from the budgets there. So the question is now, how do we grow? So our current hotel guest tax rate is at 5%, which has been at that number for approximately 40 years. Annual hotel guest tax revenue, 9.9 million, and the dollars per room, the 816 number there. Now, when you compare that with hotel tax rate of 9.25, you have the hotel guest tax revenue number there at 18,315, and then the dollars per room jumps to 1,509 as the proposed number. So why an increase? Why is this important? And I think it's all fair to say we could sit at the same number that we are and we would not grow. The visitor spend is a really great way to generate, and you can see the 161 million in state and local taxes. This is applied only to guests staying in a hotel. I think that's really, really important to note. It's applied to Tulsans only during a short-term stay. So a stay longer than 30 days is covered by permanent residency exemption. So this does not impact Tulsans unless they are staying for a concert or staying downtown or doing something that they choose to do as a staycation. Hotel guest tax equals other people's money, and it's a way to help our community. The impact of an increase, it increases marketing reach. Taking Tulsa from a national to a global destination, I will say we don't see ourselves as regional, we see ourselves truly on the national stage. You think about having the Today Show, you think about YouTube coming here and accepting an award, you think about Ironman and the big events that we've hosted, whether they've come in and brought international visitors, but Route 66 and our opportunity right now to capture these dollars is really, really important. We're maintaining a current momentum of events, tournaments, and conferences, but to establish Tulsa's international presence and ability to host events from worldwide organizations. And I'll just say, we want our corporations to keep their conventions here and bring other people here instead of going to other cities and leaving their money there. So more visitors equals more money in the local economy, increased, improved quality of life for all Tulsans. And I'm stuck.
That's it.
Is that it? Okay. So I wanted just to open it up to any questions, and anything that we can do to really educate and help everyone understand. And we have some of our hoteliers here as well.
Counselor Dr. Wright.
Thank you. Thanks, Renee. I appreciate the slide deck and the presentation. I just wanted to clarify, I think I know the answer, but it would be good just to get it out here. Short-term rentals, less than 30 days, are subject to this lodging tax. Okay, so like when we have a PGA moment, and it's all the hotels and all the Airbnbs, VBROs, whatever, they are also going to, we'll see that impact.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then for like, visiting nurses that might come for a 3-week assignment and they're staying in Airbnb, even though they're like, as long as it's not past, their contract's not past 30 days on that housing,
Yes,
it will be subject to this.
that is true.
Okay.
And I think the number on it, and I'll verify, but it's about 4%, something like that, that could be impacted.
4% of the
Of people that
inventory?
are local that would be staying, but we'll get that number for you.
Oh, I guess I'm just, the idea of what a short-term stay looks like has changed.
Airbnbs, yeah.
And I think we've talked about
Yeah.
that.
Though they're declining and hotels are coming more back, but yeah.
What's declining?
Airbnbs, like that market's kind of,
In Tulsa, it's shrinking back.
Or is
or
it
it's like stabilized /
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So people like all rushed in and then now people are like, oh,
There's only so much,
Was
yeah.
it? Okay.
Or also now people want more I think as prices have leveled out, this is just to name an industry thing, people
Yeah.
end up wanting the stability of what they can expect from a hotel,
Right.
whereas Airbnb,
and
you don't
points
always,
and all
yeah.
the things, yeah.
Shout out
okay.
to you
Yeah.
over there.
There's-
No, but,
I guess I'm just
yeah.
trying to make the point, it is
They're still subject to it as
hotels at
well.
every level
Yeah.
and in the traditional concept of what a
Yeah.
hotel is, but it's also these
Yeah, all
short-term
these short-term
rentals.
rentals, yeah.
As long as they're more than 6 rooms, Jack, or something? 5 rooms, okay.
Counselor Bellis, did you have
Yeah, follow.
additional, please, go ahead.
Yeah. This is just one of those, if you, like, sorry if you shared a number like this and I missed it, do you have a, hey, for every dollar that, like, for instance, because I think part of the argument here is we're investing in tourism, people, especially when you have these different critical needs, and you already made the case of, hey, it generates this much sales tax, but do you have one of those, hey, for every dollar invested in tourism, the ROI for our community is this many dollars back in? I just think one of the, like, a really quick soundbite like that, because I think it can be hard for people or the public to go, you say, oh, it generates all these millions in local and state
And
tax, but that's like,
forget
okay,
that.
but what does that do for us? And if we can be really explicit, being like, hey, for every dollar of like this pot of money that we put into tourism, this is what comes back into like really specifically local in that just like dollar amount, I think could be a really helpful data point
Sure.
to share with people, to just really help make it relevant or share, then that's all, for every $1 here, it's this many more back, and that's going into people's streets, sidewalks, all those other,
Yeah.
public safety, all those other things.
We can provide that. It's typically about more or less $1,000 per household is what it ends up being. So we can bring those numbers back to you. And then also, it ranges from, for every dollar, it could be up to $10. But that's your direct spend, and then you have your indirect and the additional spend.
Yeah, I think numbers like that are just so helpful to paint the picture, because I think it can be, people think tourism and they don't always connect how that, that they're like, oh, that's for other people.
Right.
But it's like, no, here's what it really does do for our
The
local economy in
quality
a really
of
direct way, or how does it get back into those, like, the most vulnerable people's pockets or things like that.
Absolutely.
I have a question,
Yes.
and this may be more on the hotel side. I'm trying to form a question about the prices of our hotels. Somebody might say, well, why do you need to raise the tax? Hoteliers can just maybe raise their prices and you have, additional revenue there. Or maybe if we pass the tax, it allows hoteliers to keep their prices affordable and competitive. I guess my question is, how do hoteliers sort of think about their pricing structure after this tax is implemented? Is it you all wanna?
Yeah, absolutely.
Speak to this?
Hi, I'm Andrew Hargis.
Andrew, well, hold on, will you come? And just introduce yourself.
Sorry.
Well, hold on a second, we're getting some conflicting advice down here.
Yeah.
Yes, Sarah?
Well, so your posted item is a presentation from the Regional Chamber and Visit Tulsa regarding the hotel guest tax. So you can, that's your
That would be
posted
for
item.
another agenda item.
Would it be? Okay.
Just
Yes.
If so,
It just depends.
Unless you're from Visit Tulsa.
Yeah.
okay. All right.
So you should check next time.
That's all right. Well, so Andrew.
Can I keep the chair?
No?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you'll give us a better one. Okay, so that's the curiosity that I have, but we'll speak at another time about it. Counselor Lakin,
For future.
say this.
I think to one of Counselor Bellis's points, we do need those numbers relating to when a visitor comes, what do they leave behind? And then how does that affect our economy going forward? What is the multiplier effect? Visitors come and stay, we're here to stay, and we benefit from restaurants that are able to stay open because visitors did come into our city. We ourselves as Tulsans probably can't keep those restaurants open. Because visitors are here, they're helping. Same thing with hotels.
And attractions.
Yeah. And hopefully there's some sales tax that comes into our general fund that helps us with general operations of the city of Tulsa.
Yes.
I know it's not gonna be it could be a substantial number. I don't know what that number is though. So whatever economist you have who can help us with those numbers is great. I continue to hear questions about allocations of the hotel tax. So are we gonna stick with the same allocations or are we going to change? So I'd love to have some analysis on where so if we get one extra dollar, how are we going to generate the highest return for that next dollar that we generate? Is it better to go into the Convention and Tourism Facilities Fund because those mini facilities are really the catalyst for bringing people into our community? Or is it better to go into Visit Tulsa because you're able to generally cause the Arabian Horse Show or Chili Bowl or whatever, and smaller things as well to come into Tulsa that are going to not utilize those facilities but benefit the city overall. So I don't know how that analysis is done, but those are the two big levers that we have to pull right now. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if there's a time to look at changing the allocation, we need to look at that now so that we can say, if we tweak it here or if we tweak it there, then the impact will be more significant. We heard a couple of weeks ago that, $184 million comes annually from just the two facilities that we toured, Harvest and BOK, if my numbers are correct. That's pretty significant. How much comes from Visit Tulsa with about the same percentage allocation investment? So you may know those numbers right now, but if you don't, I'd love for a follow-up.
I just went back to this slide too, to kind of see, when you talk about the guest tax revenue and the jump that you see immediately from just raising that guest tax. But in addition to that, it's a reinvestment back into the city, and it's also to help our small businesses and our attractions and our retail and, everything along those lines. So then those are generated tax dollars that come in addition to that.
Oh, yeah.
As the indirect spending.
Yeah, but.
That's the percentage I think you're asking about the percentage breakdown.
Well, on the percentage breakdown, if we're
raise our lower. Well, we need to put it through a model. So we're gonna have $8.4 more million, that $8.415 more million that come in on this deal. Well,
Or where-
yeah, where's it going to go? Where's it going to generate the most return for us?
Yeah,
If
and
we-
if there's
if we
some
put
area
it
that
all
could stay
toward-
flat versus scale more, yeah.
Yeah, if one is significantly better than the other, then why wouldn't we put more toward that versus
Sure.
where it is now?
Yeah.
And there's an analysis, it's probably not a very difficult one to determine how we get the best return on those dollars. So if all we do is go from 9.9 million to 10 million, then how are we going to spend that extra, where are we gonna allocate that extra $100,000 so that it benefits us most?
Renee, would you be the one to do that analysis, or Sarah? Who would be the one to do that?
I think,
We'll use tourism economics
Okay.
and
Yeah.
have,
It's-
those numbers back for you. I mean, these are high level, we can dig deeper, but we can also show additional cities here on how we compare. But
I don't, for me, I don't really care what additional cities are doing. I
Okay.
just care
Back
how
to
we're
you
gonna,
guys. Mhm.
yeah, $8.4 million. How is it, where's the best place to put it, and how is it going to benefit us the most?
Actually, I kind of care what OK's.
Yeah.
I'm naming like within.
It's one counselor who
out-
doesn't-
yeah,
who
hold on,
doesn't
'cause
care.
outside of Oklahoma, I don't care because we have such a unique municipal funding structure. But I do think, and I know you've done a lot of comparisons with OKC before, just to know what our competition does and their ROI on that. You know, when it comes to attracting
Oh,
tourism.
yeah,
That
we're
would be
looking
good.
at ROIs, I don't.
Yeah,
Are they
these
funding
numbers are-
facilities?
But that might help us give a
Immaterial
guidepost
to
for
me.
what's
Yeah.
impactful about that breakdown.
Yes,
Like, is
and that
there-
breakdown.
Is their breakdown the same as what's being, no, it's not.
No, their breakdown is different.
Right, their allocations.
Yeah, that's what I, okay.
Because they do some maps stuff.
I know
for
their
their-
map stuff when it comes to asset maintenance and things like that looks a lot different, but.
Yeah.
That's why I said truly is apples to oranges, because
Yeah.
they all, each city is unique how they do it, but we can pull together.
I think at least for the percentage that goes to tourism, it would just be helpful to have that comparison, because I know we're competing against them as a market when it comes to
Yeah.
attracting acts and talent and, you know, conventions, et cetera. So that might be good.
Counselor Hall Harper?
So I agree that there should be an analysis done, but for clarification, at the end of the day, how you would propose those funds be spent is just a recommendation.
Oh,
We
right.
decide where those funds are actually going to rest.
Yeah, and I
Clear?
wasn't
I'm just
suggesting
being
that.
clear on that.
Yeah.
I know you know that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
So-
and I wasn't suggesting they make the allocation or even suggest it, I was just saying.
Yeah.
how-
Well, my question is, or my comment is that we need to decide, is that a committee? Is that a working group, when we get to that space to decide? These are the funds that we potentially will be bringing in additionally. And then what process are we going to engage in as a council to determine the best use for those funds? So is that a working group? Is that the budget committee?
Sarah?
That's where I am.
Well, we've kind of modeled our discussions just out here. So the initial discussions that we laid out were the foundational discussions, so getting the tour and the BOK needs, understanding from the chamber's perspective. And then as you move into developing your ordinance and what you want to take to a town hall, I envisioned those discussions just being here at the table.
Yeah, and we can use the 1 o'clock too. If we need to.
Anything else, Counselor Hall Harper?
No, I just wanted to.
I've got Counselor Decker Wright and then Counselor Bellis.
Thank you. As we're having these discussions and talking about impacts, I do want to just voice at this table that there's nonprofit providers in the city that use hotels and short-term rentals for their activities. And so I don't know, as we're doing research and comparisons, if there's other cities that have carve-outs or exemptions or reductions in what they pay on this lodging tax, but
Are they already? I'm trying to remember what's in the lodging. Don't make me revise the lodging tax again.
say what?
I just never want to revise the
I
lodging
don't
tax
remember
again.
this being an exemption.
They're not,
I don't
I'm
remember
just-
that being
I
an
looked at that.
exemption.
Is it?
It's not,
There are
okay.
not exemptions for those providers, and we've kind of talked about the best way to address exemptions, and honestly, trying to.
Then it's like comp rates.
Right, trying to legislate that, it can be difficult because you're trying to legislate programs that go into kind of eternity. And so maybe the better way to do that is to programmatically do it. So if the city does have a program, like you did, emergency temporary housing, the best way is probably to factor in the increased rate in that contractual relationship and account for it that way when you're working with those service providers. So we can definitely still explore those, but it's just, can you write an exemption that is easy to implement in the future, and that easy implementation, you'll see struggle just based on programs. So, but we can write it down for one, but.
Yeah, I don't know what the
Yeah.
answer is of how to address it. I'm just voicing that there are concerns with providers of those services in hotels, which until we get all the housing that we need, hotels will continue, and short-term rentals will continue to be used as temporary emergency housing or ongoing housing. I mean, we all have constituents who stay in a hotel for 30 days and then check out and move into a different room for another 30 days, for months on end.
Sure.
Whether it's funded through government programs or just nonprofit fundraising and donors offsetting the cost.
Counselor Bellis.
Yeah, I did want to name to folks as we're considering the breakdown, and I'm not saying I'm proposing this for this, I just want to give an example of this. The hoteliers are going to be like, don't bring this up again. But, you know, in St. Louis, some of their lodging tax goes to lodging. Like, I'm just naming, I don't think that that's like, we're trying to shake things up in that way at this time, but I do want to name that there are different ways that people approach how like lodging tax gets used, and like some of other cities take it very differently. I do want to acknowledge, and I appreciate Councilor Lakin for saying I'm not like interested in other cities, in that there are really unique factors here, and it's not, you know, we're comparing apples, oranges, etc. But I just did want to just name to everybody that there are other things cities do pretty creatively with lodging tax. I don't think that that's something that, like, it's a lot to dig into at this time, but I do think some of that's worth exploring at some point.
Yeah, or maybe we are trying to shake it up. Well, I think we talked with Sarah. I think if I'm recalling correctly, and it is apples and oranges, like Vail, Colorado, they have a lot of tourism, and so part of their tax goes to, you know, how do we maintain the workforce that actually, you know, serves the folks that come. I think everything should be on the table. That's what I think. And so we just have to, I think talking about it in public, in private is good. But thank you for raising that, Councilor Bellis. Anyone else? Well, thank you, Renee, for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for your support.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving along to item number 9, discussion and update with the City Council Small Budget Committee and the Director of Finance or her designee on the city's December 2025 mid-year fiscal 2026 budget report, brought to you by Councilor Lakin, Dr. Wright, Bangle, and Gilbert.
Now for the fun
And
stuff.
Yeah, so-
I'm sorry, Jared Moore is
Jared
here.
Moore, I'm her designee today.
Okay, excellent.
Serving that as.
Sorry about that.
So this is the city council budget update for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. This is what's provided to the small council group, and I believe quarterly to the larger group. And it's traditionally the major funds of the city, not entirely encompassing of everything, but the primary ones. I'll go through the board. Happy to answer any questions along the way, just interrupt me. And this is for you, so whatever questions I can answer as we go. Starting with revenue, we're focusing primarily on the general fund. Through December was 17 million sales tax. It was about 700,000 over our monthly estimate. Year to date, we're 2.8 million over for sales tax in the general fund. We've received January since then. It was also up. That's good. Use tax, that's kind of a notable here. It was interesting all last year. Use tax was kind of saving the day. Sales tax was under the whole time. It seems to have flipped so far for the first 6 months this year. Use tax has been down every month so far. But in December, there was a correction from the tax commission that there had been a miscalculation for the previous 4 months, I believe, 5 months. And so we were given an additional 2.5 million roughly in December that was to account for July through November. So that kind of swept out the deficit we've been running all year, bringing it down to it's only about 800 below estimate for the year, so it's much closer to being on track. Hotel motel, you had just previously discussed, was 80,000 over estimate for the month. Year to date, it is 135,000 over the estimate. Moving on to expenditures. Actuals and encumbrances being any kind of obligation of funds, purchase orders, contracts, requisitions and such. We're $225.2 million for the year on a total approved budget of $429.6 million. Of that 225, the biggest chunk is actual spent dollars, and of that it's mostly payroll, but of the 225, about 93% of that is actual expenditures, and a little under 7% is encumbrances. We're kind of at that tipping point when we get to like page 4. Every month, every department will look inflated against estimate, but that's because they're generally carrying large contracts or encumbrances throughout the year. Sorry, you'll have to skip to try to stay on course. There was one mayoral transfer that occurred in the month of December that was moving the $100,000 from a other services account to a personal services account within the TAMA department budget. This was, just to, if you're familiar, we're going through the separation with our relationship with the county on that, and so there will be a position primarily to handle administrative work. I believe it's posted right now, but this is to put the dollars in the correct accounting buckets so that those can be charged appropriately. Throughout the year, adjustments are made to close prior year POs or contracts. When that happens, a transfer out of funds occurs. It releases those appropriations, puts it back into cash balance within the fund. To date, $2.9 million in completed purchase orders or contracts have been closed and returned to cash balance. That's for the first 6 months of the year. For context, last year we did 2.9 for pretty much the entire year. So, but I guess I'll immediately undercut that. Every month going forward, you'll see kind of a trickle. You notice for December we only closed a little over $1,000. We do a big push in October. Everybody gets through September to pay any final invoices on prior year POs, and after that, we do a large review and close out everything that is no longer necessary. So dollars can still be used efficiently and not just like hang out there on old POs not being used. The general fund cash position change, that's something we're watching this year. To date, through December, revenues have been a little over $208.7 million. Expenditures for the year are $211 million. So just on an annual basis, this is not including any prior year fund balance accumulation. This is just the net over-under of FY26. We've spent $2.2 million more than we've brought in revenue for the year. That is kind of anything that has a cash flow. It probably will sort itself out better as we go throughout the rest of the year. At this time last year, we were at about a negative $3.1 million. But keep in mind, we did do a budget where we were planning on 15 million negative. So your barometer right now is we're at 2.2, but we still have 6 more months to go.
And is it safe to say there are just some timing issues here? If you did this 5 days later or 5 days earlier, the numbers would obviously be different.
Yes, it's changing constantly.
Can I ask you to, you just said we planned a negative $5 million budget.
15?
I mean, $15
I
million
keep saying
budget.
15, 12, I think. Sorry, I'm quoting off.
I just want to be
the top there.
super clear, we do not run deficit budgets, and I think the way we talk about this has confused the public and maybe even our own auditor. So, we do not spend money we don't have, and we know that we have year-end fund balances that we can project. Sometimes we're over, sometimes we're under. Right now, we're ahead of what we have projected, but I'm concerned when we say things like we plan to have a $15 million negative budget. That's not what we planned.
We don't.
We plan to have a balanced
We can't
budget.
legally do that.
We
Correct.
just plan,
What
we
does
just
that
plan to
mean?
use 15
Million
million
dollars.
of our unallocated fund balance.
Correct.
Which is within compliance
Which are
with
real
Oklahoma
dollars.
Municipal Budget Act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is legal.
Which
Which
is,
is-
Totally.
and the
no
unallocated
difference.
fund balance is there because
We hold our
decided
expenses
to-
down.
yeah. yeah,
And then
that
we
was
perform better on
accumulated.
projected revenues.
Kevin is writing all this down.
We have savings.
It's a savings.
It's,
We
He's
have a
heard this
savings
before.
account.
That's good.
Tulsa Flyers got it, okay.
I'm
Is there-
oh, I'm sorry.
it's more like internally we need to have it because there is a disconnect in how we're talking about our budget that is confusing the public at best.
Sure.
Well, and some putting that false narrative out there too.
Correct.
Counselor Gilbert, do you want to continue with your, I'll call on you.
Yeah, so, I just have a couple questions on the, Tulsa Area Emergency Management Agency, the $100,000 transfer. So is that, you said that there's a, we're seeking someone to head that department, is that right? Or a personnel?
I won't speak technically on that. I think the mayor or Laurel may come, but this was specifically for kind of just an administrative, it's a kind of low-level AT 28 type position that's to handle paperwork, kind of just administrative tasks in general. It is not the director position.
Right, so we're looking for a director, which I'm sure, I think that falls under Commissioner Roberts. But then that 100,000 transfer, is that for one personnel? Or does it include equipment, office supplies?
This specifically, and be sensitive not to lean into equating that we're filling a $100,000 position, just the ordinance that the council approves every year authorizes up to $100,000.
Right, right.
And so this is the residual funds that will not be going forward to pay the emergency agency, management agency. So we just moved the full 100,000 over. If any independent employment or any other expenses are necessary to help fill efforts going for the rest of this fiscal year, the money will be there to pay bills.
Specifically
for that?
Specifically for that.
That
For that
position,
one,
so-
that one purpose.
Yeah, so maybe we can put on for a future item to have that discussion of the, maybe it's for a 1 o'clock budget meeting that we get more detail of what that office is and what, who all is going to be, how many people are we looking at hiring to be in that position or in that department? Is it going to be a brand-new department to where we're gonna have 3 or 4 people?
So a budgetary and organizational structure of City of Tulsa
Yes,
Emergency
please.
Management
Yeah.
Office. Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Roberts is developing that right now. It will be part of the 27 budget submit, or proposal, so
Okay.
they're still in the early stages of
Right, it's
answering
just.
the questions.
Right,
They're
it's
good
just
questions.
something that we need to look into as, as you said at the beginning, separating from the county, but what are we doing duplicating services? So, also the use tax. So that just wasn't a hiccup for Tulsa, but it was a hiccup by the tax commission for statewide.
Appreciate
It
that
just didn't.
spike. Yes, it was statewide.
Yeah,
Every
just not in
city.
Tulsa.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
I have Counselor Bellis, Dr. Wright, and then I think I'll jump in with a question as well. But Counselor Bellis?
No, mine's quick. To the people in the small budget committee, I was just gonna see if there's any other insights or things that you think the rest of us should know from like the conversations you've all had, or looking at whether it's budget forecasts or other things. I just know that you all have like some pretty in-depth like conversations, and have a lot more like insight from the kind of digging deep into some of this. So I just wanted to check if there's other stuff you guys wanted to highlight to the rest of us.
Personally, do you have, how many more slides are you gonna go over? You gonna go over the full deck?
I can stop now. I'm here to answer questions.
I-
That's probably just primarily everything that falls in the pages that follow.
Just to answer your question a little bit, I don't know if we need to go over the economical thing, but I would like you to just go through a few more slides.
Yeah.
Because I think it adds context for maybe us. We we presumably have read all of this, but for the people who are watching, the people who are here, it really is new information. And we agreed that we would have this public meeting about this information, which is critical to understanding where we sit from a budgetary standpoint. So I think you'll get a little bit more context, and it will help remind me what I need to add to the conversation too, as we go through it.
Can I add on to, since you asked the whole committee?
Yeah.
First of all, I just do want to acknowledge that the four of us get to spend an hour or more usually really digging in deep. And so I hope that we can do more of this so that the five that aren't in those meetings get to have more. But I appreciate you kind of saying like, what are the breadcrumbs or like.
Yeah, like tell us what to really be looking at.
Yeah, so one of the things we committed to on this budget is when we get to a point where revenue and the expenses are under revenue, we would be able to take care of our non-sworn personnel, right? So there's that we're monitoring as we go. We're not there yet by the resolution language, so if you were wondering or if you're getting questions, I've gotten questions from some folks about it. The other thing is just this ongoing kind of
I'm sorry, you're talking about bonuses.
Yeah, we had like a trigger.
It's a stipend, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to.
Yes.
That 1% stipend.
Yeah, so we're already in 2 quarters of this fiscal and we're constantly looking at that. So that might be a question you have, I don't know. But the other thing is just how we continue. I will say in the last small budget meeting, I said as we prepare to come into our budget discussions and our kickoff, which is the retreat, are they going to be telling us that they need to make cuts? Because the rhetoric has been, we're spending more than we have been taking in, which I think is not in actuality on paper what's happening. And so I've felt disoriented over the last year between what's being said out in the public realm and what we get to see every month. And maybe we could add a tracker, since to your point, Jared, we made this commitment of $12 million. As we're getting these reports, could there be a little like, here's where we are on that? Because right now, as we talked in the small budget, we're at about a $10 million projection if we stay on track with these revenues. Obviously, things could change month to month. But maybe we could have a tracker so we can see as we come into May and June where we are on the unexpended, unappropriated fund balances from what we thought we were gonna have. Until we make some shift as a matter of course of not doing that, I've heard that we shouldn't be doing that, but we are doing that. So if there's a different way to do it,
Or I've come
then
to
we should shift to that in our budget process. Well, that's the other
That's
discussion.
maybe what I'm hearing, because I do think there is a need to spend more time on just understanding the budgeting part of
The
unassigned
structure,
fund balances
yeah.
and the structure. Is that something that could be like a 4:00 council education item? I'm just pinging over to, or that could be a full committee item, I
Or
don't know.
1 o'clock budget
Like,
meeting.
I
or
think
what
it
if-
should be a 1
A
o'clock.
1 o'clock budget meeting, okay, yeah, I wasn't trying to like put it on, I would just know that sometimes we do our council learning at the 4 o'clock. But yeah, or 1 o'clock seems, like, obviously this is a special budget one, but I would just love to get a little bit more about, because I know we've discussed at times how unassigned fund balances, like, the structure of them, why it's better to do more like one-time costs than ongoing ones, but how we use them. Obviously, it's incumbent on us from the balanced budget, like fiscal responsibility end, to like utilize them, of course, though at the same time, you don't wanna, like, so I would just love to get more information for everyone on.
Well, and to your point, if we get to a point where we don't need to use any of them, what is the plan for those dollars? Do they go into the rainy day, like, what's
Yeah,
the plan?
there's several layers I know about.
The other thing I will say that we
How
did
this
talk about that I
function.
wanna flag for you is that the kudos to the fire department, they're holding their overtime plan in place. Laurel's been working with them. So I know that's been a big topic of discussion and why we get to year end sometimes and have to do these outlays. So
Right.
I think we've had some learnings over the last maybe 3 years about how to better manage those things. And so kudos to Chief Baker and his team and Laurel for making that happen. I don't know.
Can I ask a clarifying question
where
about
we're
what you
at
just
on
said about the fire department
Yeah.
overtime though?
Yeah.
This is just a clarifying question related to, does some of that depend on, and this relates to like the unassigned fund balances and projections and things like that, like where if like for instance, a certain amount of FEMA reimbursement comes through, then we don't need to use like it might cost us less in overtime. Like
Yeah.
I'm just naming an unknown factor where it's like, hey, if there's a certain kind of disaster that requires a lot of overtime, we don't always know if we're gonna be reimbursed federally for that within at least even that calendar year, and then we have to use unassigned fund balance. I'm just naming the
I think
unknowns.
there's some of that. I think also we have been providing mutual aid to other states when there's like a call, and so
Right.
we kind of tightened some of that up. I did see on this most recent storm that it did not, the impacts were not to the threshold that we
Right.
would get reimbursements, but to your point, that doesn't mean that
But we don't always
We
know if
didn't
it's gonna
have
happen or not, so it's like, do we
people out
budget?
working.
That's okay. So do we budget with like a buffer for that, or do we just do a wait and see with the fund balance, knowing that, I'm just trying, that's like a question.
I would say we don't necessarily preemptively budget for it, but we do preemptively record and track all of that.
Right.
Like, coming up to this winter storm, we had in place tracking mechanisms and communications with all departments that any expenditures that were related to the storm, you know, code them this way and that way.
We-
If it had turned out differently, it'd been very expensive, and
Sure.
then when we get to May, April or so, and we're discussing fire overtime as an example, if
Or
it was exceeding. we
Public
could-
Works right
Yeah.
now.
we would have a good explanation to say, this wasn't really necessarily like excessive overtime, there was a specific cause and reason for it.
Right, okay,
But,
that's helpful.
budgeting ahead of time for that.
Well, how can we know for like natural disasters or things like
Well,
that?
that's why we have
Jared,
the rainy
do
day
you
fund.
want to continue on with these slides a little bit, just very quickly?
Sure.
And then we'll get done, and then there's some additional questions.
Tell me if I'm going too fast or slow. Next page is just what we've kind of already discussed, is the schedule of sales tax. The left-hand side is this year budget compared to actuals. We are up 2.8 for sales tax. The middle three columns is just a comparison to last year. This year to last year, we're actually up 4.9 million in sales tax. That's all encouraging. The next page is the exact same thing, but it's the use tax schedule for the general fund. To date, we're upside down against estimate, 800,000 and 25,000 compared to this time last year. The correction this month, that's why we have that lone month in November that's showing that we beat estimate. That is the correction for the previous months ahead of that. The next page is a brief table of all of the major city funds and the revenue. General fund as a whole, we had actuals of 37.5 million against an estimate of 34.6 million, so we're 2.8 million ahead in the fund. It was primarily sales tax and interest earnings driving that. A and B there, sales and use, we've discussed several times now. The franchise taxes, we actually beat estimate by about 64,000 for the month. That was encouraging. For the year, we are 278,000 below estimate. We will continue to watch that. E911 fund, there was the state statute change about a year ago, so we're able to, we've had 12 months to predict future behavior with, so our estimates have gotten a lot tighter. We're about 10,000 over estimate. It's a very small fund, about 43,000 over for the year. The hotel motel we've discussed, those are the three funds that receive the allocations. Together, they're about 80,000 over for the month, 135 for the year. The bottom of the page is the TARE fund, Authority for Recovery of Energy, solid waste. We are 107,000 over for the monthly estimate, 866,000 for the year. We're just now getting into the time, and this will be true for the TARE fund and TMUA fund and the stormwater fund on the next pages, where financial planning staff within each of those areas will be reviewing the upcoming rate needs to get resource recovery in. However well or poorly revenues are doing this year will impact rate expectations for the next years, but they're just in the first stages of performing that analysis. Stormwater fund is same story, 361,000 over estimate for the month, 1.9 million for the year. Water fund, I'm glad that I get to do this in December, because that's the first month, I think, of the year that it's overperformed in revenue. So far, as you can see, year-to-date, we're 3.9 million to the negative, and A lot of people have looked at this, and we all feel pretty confident in it, but it is simply a matter of less consumption, less water usage. It was cool, it was wet for a lot of the year, and so just all the billable water is a lot less than it was the year before. Sewer fund is a similar.
January's numbers are gonna look really good, based upon my water usage in
Yeah, I
my
was gonna say,
house.
still dripping my
Everybody do your
faucets.
I know, it's like, I'm not gonna turn it off, because it's just gonna get cold tomorrow.
Just keep it dripping.
Yeah, no, I'm too afraid to find out.
Yeah.
Sewer fund is a similar story, but it actually was doing similar but reverse. It was doing well for the year. This December month, we're actually down $400,000 for the month. It is the month that knocked us upside down for the year, so we're negative $327 for the year. That could very easily change in December, and it'll be right side up again. And then the next 4 funds are all just capital improvement funds that are anchored to the sales tax. So if sales tax performed well in the general fund, it would have performed the same and improve our Tulsa and the public safety tax, transportation tax, and economic vision fund. So all of those are performing well to the tune of about 2.9% over the annual estimate. We can skip 6 and 7, just graphs for the same. Page 8 is we're getting back into the expenditures territory. Touched on that a little bit in the front page, but you see that in the middle there's an estimate percentage column and an actuals percentage column. And I kind of alluded to this, that for the first 6 months of the year, a lot of departments will look like their actuals are way of exceeding what we would estimate for them to be. But a lot of we do take into account prior POs, but it's not entirely predictable. But a lot of it is just due to departments encumber most of their large contracts in the first couple months of the year. And so their total amount of expenses and encumbrances combined will generally exceed just kind of a linear estimate of monthly spend down. But January going forward flips back. You'll see now they're all very close compared to the previous month.
Is that what's happening maybe on this chart with the managed entities, culture and recreation? Or mayor's
Absolutely.
office?
So managed entities, culture and recreation, that is a budgetary department for all of our management agreements with culture and rec. It's Zoo, Gilcrease, Mohawk, golf, all of those. The money's encumbered in July, and then just paid out monthly after that. So it jumps straight to actuals will be 92, 93%, like just right off the bat. But they all have contractual amounts, so it's never going to exceed what was budgeted there. I would say the same for economic development, but a lot of that actually is quality events are budgeted there, and so those only get spent as they come up, so it's still kind of early in the year. As those come, the actuals and estimate will more closely align. Other than that, pretty much every department, any actuals exceeding estimate can primarily be explained through large contracts going the other direction. And you'll see animal services and public works are both below the estimate. And a lot of that is just they're both carrying kind of, on a percentage basis, high vacancies. I checked their rates as of January 1st, and I think they were both in the range of 15% of their open seats were vacant right now.
Personnel.
Thank you so much, Jared.
Yeah.
I have Counselor Lakin and Counselor Bellis.
So on this chart, this is one, Counselor Bellis, that we talk about quite significantly. It doesn't really help us to talk about it in the first 3 or 4 months because, there aren't very many things that are unexpected, but it has been helpful to us as we get further into the budget year. And so if finance is seeing, or somebody else in the room is seeing some areas of concern, we can start to manage those areas of concern to the extent we can as a council, and definitely the mayor's office to a much greater extent. But with respect to fire 3 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, there was a situation where the expenses weren't encumbered. I mean, they had already spent the personnel time. We ended up having to cover those in a different fiscal year. And so we want to keep we want to keep ourselves as a city from getting to that standpoint. And then the mayor's office ultimately is responsible for keeping that from happening before it becomes a budgetary concern. So I think we're doing a much better job managing from the information that's on this sheet, because we've really paid a lot more attention to it over the last 3 or 4 years in particular. I really like this presentation because there's lots of black lettering on this, in this presentation, not red lettering. Which is great. It really does paint a very good picture of where we are in comparison to the prior year and in comparison to the budget. So we're in a very good position. We have available funding. I think you would have seen our cash position be very different this year if we would not have had the success with sales tax and general fund collections overall has been part of this presentation. Is that accurate on the cash position element?
Yeah.
Councilor Butler, do you want to follow up with that?
Yeah, I was just gonna check, because I remember we did this 2 years ago, and now I'm blanking on if we did this last year, where we looked across departments. You mentioned, I was just thinking about those places where it has that inherent variance, which you mentioned, when there's like open positions. Did we do this last year, or was it 2 years ago, where we went across and looked at all of the different kind of like positions that had been open for X amount of time or been high turnover, and did it like kind of a budgetary assessment?
We did
Erica.
we've done the last few years,
Yeah.
some high-level vacancy rates. So like last year, I think there were 180 vacancies.
Right.
And so what Erica did, I think last year, there were 4 or 5 just hard-to-fill positions,
Right.
she called them. And they ranged across departments, and she identified those to really understand the vacancies, and why a position is vacant.
Right, like if it's pay
You
versus.
would need to essentially do a department by department and likely involve those departments to understand why a position is vacant. So is it vacant and listed? Is it vacant because it's being
We've
reclassified?
done that a bunch,
Is it-
looking at animal services, for example.
Animal services, you did a deeper dive. There's a little paw print.
Yeah.
Why is this vacant? That was probably 3 years ago.
Okay, I'm just naming for maybe places where we see a lot of variance there, we may want to, just to my council colleagues, we may want to revisit by specific departments, which again, there are like, for instance, with animal services, that one has to do with like, those jobs are high compassion fatigue and a lot of other things, I know it really can.
Well, and last year we talked about labor and trades was having a hard time, and I remember
Yep.
Counselor Bush said, can we do like third-party contracting through, placement agencies? I don't know what the outcome of that inquiry was.
Yeah, there's just some staffing things like, I don't know, again, I know there's different reasons for various variances, especially even if it's just based on what quarter we're in and what else is coming up or contracts, but for ones where it is kind of like the staffing, I'm just thinking about how we can look at that getting into the budget season. I'll just put a pin in that spot.
All right. Anyone else? Councilor Gilbert.
So just to make it clear, we are not in dire straits, right? I mean, all of our projections, especially our sales tax revenue is up. It's not down.
Yeah, not dire straits at all. I mean, we're well solvent. I mean, it's, you're talking
Get
to
ready
like
for a press release.
the cynical part of the city. I mean, that's the area I represent, so I'd like to see.
Well,
us
what I'm
not
trying to
be-
get at is that there was, as everyone
Label
has
yourself as a
noted,
cynic?
That's what I'm paid to do.
in this conversation is that we are running a deficit, and we are not running a deficit. We
We're not doing
have,
deficit spending.
we have money coming in,
Yes, ma'am.
over projections.
Mhm.
So we are not, we're not in a situation where we have to, like, stop travel or have a hiring freeze or anything like that. We are in a good financial position within the city.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, if it was my personal budget, I mean, I would I mean, we are saving money in situations, and we have more money coming in than what we have going out.
We still do have 6 months
Yeah, we're
sales
halfway
tax. to be
through.
Right, but at
volatile, and
this
we have-
point,
but
we
at
are-
This very
Exactly.
moment, I would see no reason why we need to be firing,
Don't
freezing, or furloughing. I mean,
You're right, and that's the kind of the question we were asking as we head into this, budget season with the kickoff of the retreat. I think just also we need to continue to work with comms in our office and at the city level to really talk about unappropriated, unexpended fund balances in a different way. The rhetoric out there is that we dipped into savings because we didn't know we overspent, and none of that is true. Unequivocally, that is not true.
Yep.
But that has been, you can Google right now, and that's what you're gonna see. So we've got to do a better job of how we talk about these things, and if people are confused and don't understand, then we need to explain it. But we can't have this kind of, the sky is falling, let's make massive, cuts at every level.
Right.
But, the rhetoric's like, we're doing 5% cuts. Well, really what it was is people were asked, if you had to cut 5%, what would it be? And then there was a go through and look at what was put on the table and pick the things that made sense. And a lot of it was not picked. And some departments didn't have any cuts made. So I just think we need to be very careful in times like this, how we talk about dollars. People, to Counselor Gilbert's point, in their own household budgets or business budgets are feeling a pinch, are having to make hard decisions, and we will too. But I think we need to be very cautious about
Right.
and measured about how we talk about these things.
And this information is online. You can
It
go on
is.
and-
It absolutely
and
is.
download it, very understandable.
We also have a sales tax overview committee that comes to us monthly and reports out as well how we're doing on the capital side, so.
And that's made up of volunteers.
Absolutely.
So-
And if you have
citizens.
not reviewed that report, it's hundreds of pages long.
And it's also online for everyone.
Yeah.
For a while there, you could learn a lot about elephants.
Mhm.
Counselor Lakin, did you have additional?
Do you know where we stand in the budget process now, or what have departments submitted? Have they been asked to make cuts? Is it flat? Where are we in the overall process?
My office groups them up into 3 groups. 2 of them have submitted. The 29th, I think, is the last group that will submit. It's still very early. There are mayoral instructions for giving guidance to the departments, but right now we're just in the phase that departments are telling us what they need to do their jobs.
Just presenting their.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Will we
Not
get
like-
to also
not-
learn what those needs are?
Mayoral instruction.
I would ask the administration. Yes,
Okay.
at some point, obviously.
So right now, it's just tell us what you need. It's not tell us what you need minus 5%, or tell us what you
There have
need
been
with these
No
cuts.
instructions like that.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
All right.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
Thank
Wanna
you.
jump in?
Very welcome.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
For being with us. We have one more to go. Item number 10, City Council discussion regarding possible selection of charter amendments. Sarah, are you with us today?
Yes, so I don't have anything specifically to present, but just going over our schedule for charter amendments. This one is a little bit different on the process. So you have committee discussions scheduled for the next couple of months. And then I think it's April 1st is when you're supposed to vote on your slate of amendments. So that's where all of the ideas are out there, hopefully a little bit developed at that time. And that purpose of that slate vote is so legal can help prepare the actual items that would be put before voters. So we just put this item on today to remind of the committee discussion. It's up to you all if you're ready to put anything forward for discussion or not. But if you need help developing any items, Jack and I are available to help develop those. And so I would just give it to you all if you have concepts that you want to put out there. If not, if we can, before we leave the discussion, kind of decide when is our next committee discussion. So your next meeting after this is February 11th. We can put an item on, or we can wait until the meeting after that. But February and March are our times to really move forward on these.
All right. Does anyone want
Do you have anything?
to jump in?
I would recommend that we bring it back up on the 11th,
Okay.
just so that we have that continuance of
But what are we bringing up,
Reminder.
the concepts or just?
No, just
check in?
Just check in.
Yeah, you know, ideally in February or March, the concepts start being brought to the table, but I can put just this general item
Yeah.
on February 11th. If somebody wants something specifically posted, we can do that too, but.
Counselor Bellis.
I think
I'm sorry, Counselor Dr. Wright, did you have?
I was just gonna say, I think there's, I know I'm working on a couple of concepts, and so that conversation's already being had with city legal. I just wanna clarify what Sarah shared. In April is when we have that slate that we vote on to then officially compel city legal to draft something to go then onto a ballot. So we're still kind of in the like, is this feasible? What I'm learning is there's probably already some authority that we have in the charter, we just haven't exercised as a matter of course, but it doesn't mean that we can't. And so that's just usually authority you already have, even though in practice you haven't. And so that's been illuminating. But there's probably some new language that will be proposed. So are you saying on February 11th is where we say these are the things that we're working on?
No.
Or
I
just
think
kind of
if
this?
someone-
Just a reminder.
Yeah, but if somebody has
this.
something by February 11th that they're ready to begin discussions at the table, they certainly can do that on
You can put
February
it on
11th.
as
I
an
think the
item.
only question I have is, almost every year, there's just kind of a request to clean up, and I'm wondering the conversation we just had today about, is that something we can look into?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that was my thing, was like, can we put that, I wanna,
Like clean up language?
yeah, what was brought up earlier about that redundancy,
That's
I would
already
like
in the
to, I would just
charter.
like to flag that as something to pursue.
Because I feel like a consensus already.
Well, maybe,
Maybe Jack
I
can
wanted
look.
to look
maybe-
into it legally.
Yeah, Jack needs to look into like the,
Yeah,
I'm just
I'll send
adding that
them
to the, I'm tossing
Yeah.
that one out publicly on the
Yeah.
list of just like, that was a redundant.
but
so-
every time I feel like there is something like that where we just go, oh,
Yeah.
because state statute
there's
is
two
there's
items.
something we have to do with it.
so the item you're talking about is the TMUA, TUB item, just for those who haven't been watching
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
sorry,
whole
yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah, sorry, that was
And
a
then,
reference to earlier.
Yes.
But no, that was
And-
just, since we discussed that earlier, I just publicly was very happy to go, hey, can we legally look into that?
the other item that I know was on the Mayor Council Retreat Action Plan, and it concerned public safety longevity issues. I know that the police department is working through some things there. I think some of you may be engaged in that. That is an item that was put out to look at on the Mayor Council Retreat Action Plan last year. And so I can check in on the timing of when that will be ready for like a fuller discussion. But that's the only kind of, I wouldn't say it's a cleanup, it is a policy shift, but that is one I know that's been administratively requested.
Okay.
So the 11th may be a reminder, there will be a time between the 11th and April
Oh, yeah.
of just public discussion in this forum to talk about people's suggestions.
We actually have public
that's-
hearings at the 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Two,
Yeah.
right? Two public hearings?
There are,
Public hearings are March 25th and April
Yeah.
1st.
All right.
so
That's
you
why I
would,
think it'd be best to bring it back on the 11th, just as a reminder. But if there is a counselor that already has something that is being worked on and is ready to be brought to the table for discussion, then we can also put that on as an agenda item. So, and especially that cleanup item that was discussed earlier.
Would that be enough time? Well, maybe that's a Jack question.
TM.
Well,
That's
we
all-
always encourage,
we have a calendar.
earlier the better, just
Yeah.
because if we get toward the end of our time frame and we have a dozen ideas to flesh out, it becomes a little crunched, so we just encourage early discussions if possible.
Counselor Hall Harper?
So when are citizens able to come? They normally come and can present at our council meeting on suggestions or recommendations.
Those are
When is
on the
that?
schedule for March 25th and April 1st.
So that's saying.
Is that too late?
Yeah.
You can certainly
It's-
schedule earlier ones if you'd like.
It would seem
Mm-hmm, right. Yeah, because
to float
Maybe
ideas.
put one in February.
Yeah. Just to float
You
ideas.
can add
That
to the
seems that's
schedule.
closer to when we have to actually vote.
yeah, you
And
can,
make a
if you want citizens to put ideas out, then you can do an earlier one. If you want them to also be able to react to ideas that you've put out, that's where maybe that March 25th and April 1st come
But
into
we're
play
not
too.
limited to just two, right?
No, you can adjust the schedule and add to the schedule.
So do we just ask the chair to do that, or how do we procedurally do that?
Just
And
as
just-
you post any other
Just,
agenda item.
we just add an item.
So add some public hearings for input,
Yeah,
ideas,
ideas.
Maybe early
From,
March?
from the citizens.
probably February.
February.
February, late February?
Do
At least
you
put
just want me
one
to
for
put one on
February.
February 11th?
Yeah, at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
February 11th.
2 in a row?
Yeah.
You want one on the 11th and the 25th?
Are
The
we-
11th and the
And then just promote
25th.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they can react, obviously in committee, we'll be having those discussions in February, March. And then we'll have the 2 already established ones for feedback from the public.
Reacting to us, but sometimes they come with
That's
ideas.
right.
Absolutely, we
We
did
have
that
the calendar,
before.
we can adjust. it.
Can we have, our media team put together some flyers, something that we can share on our Facebook to let our
For the public
constituents
hearings.
know?
Mhm.
Come
Or just
and
input.
give your input on charter amendments. Yeah.
Maybe just
I
explaining
think,
what they are.
I think
and
they've
kind of-
maybe started that already, but yes.
They did?
Yeah.
For
Okay.
public input from citizens,
I think they started the graphics work for it, so,
Okay,
but we can ask for that one specifically.
yeah, well, yeah, graphics for in general,
Well,
yeah, I'm
even
talking
just
about the ones specifically.
Remind
for the
citizens that
request.
we have a charter, here's where it is, here's how you can read it.
We do have a
Suggest-
charter page on our website
Yeah.
if anybody wants to follow along,
Yeah,
under the projects tab.
yeah.
All right, anyone else?
Get out, go.
All right,
Anything from them too?
so there will not be a 2:30, and so you done so well. Okay, so thank you all for coming, and item number 11, we are adjourned.